Every gardener knows winter soil looks dead, but one forgotten November trick can wake it up without a single scoop of manure. When frost first kisses the ground, most folks pack up their tools and wait for spring. But the old-timers knew something different, that beneath the chill, the soil is still breathing, still listening. And if you feed it the right way now, it'll reward you threefold when the thaw comes. This isn't about fancy fertilizers or chemicals, it's about understanding the quiet rhythm of the earth itself. So before you hang up your gloves, let me show you the secret beneath the frost. Meet Clara Mae. Clara Mae is 75. Her hands are softer now, but they still remember the rhythm of the soil. She doesn't lift heavy bags of compost anymore, and her knees protest at the thought of kneeling for too long. Yet somehow, every November, her garden looks alive, little green shoots peeking through the fading frost. Soil that smells rich and ready, like spring came early just for her. Neighbors often ask how she does it. She just smiles and says, "My grandfather taught me to feed the soil when it's hungry, not when it's awake." It's a line she repeats every year, but most folks don't quite get it. See, her grandfather grew up in a time when there were no synthetic fertilizers, just patience and observation. He believed the soil had moods, just like people. And November, he said, was when it listened best. So while others packed away their rakes and gloves, Clara Mae would scatter a quiet mix of crushed leaves, wood ash, and kitchen scraps, nothing fancy, just nature's leftovers. Then she'd let the frost do the rest. Now, as she leans on her cane, watching steam rise from her breath, she knows the magic isn't in the ingredients, it's in the timing. The soil remembers kindness, just as we remember love passed down through generations. Problem: the manure mistake. Every fall, just before the holidays, you'll see it, trucks unloading steaming piles of fresh manure, gardeners spreading it proudly over their winter beds, thinking they're giving their soil a head start. It's a well-meant habit, passed down for generations. Feed the earth before winter, and it'll feed you in spring. But here's the truth few talk about. When you add fresh manure in November, you're not feeding the soil, you're overwhelming it. The problem lies in timing and biology. Fresh manure is still alive, teeming with bacteria that are busy breaking down nitrogen, ammonia, and salts. When the ground temperature drops and frost sets in, those microbes slow to a crawl. The manure doesn't compost. It just sits there, cold and unfinished. The nitrogen that was meant to nourish the soil instead turns harsh, burning tender roots, shocking worms, and suffocating beneficial organisms that can't work in the chill. By spring, most gardeners are puzzled. The soil looks crusty and dull. Seeds struggle to sprout. Plants yellow before they grow. And so they add even more fertilizer, thinking the soil's hungry, when in truth, it's still recovering from a winter overload. It's not neglect that hurts the garden, it's impatience. Clara Mae's grandfather used to say, "You don't feed a sleeping man a full meal." That's what fresh manure does. It dumps heavy food on a resting soil. The microbes that digest organic matter need warmth and air. Without those, the process halts, and nutrients get locked away, unavailable until months later. Aging gardeners know this story all too well. They remember when composting was slow and deliberate, when manure was left to rest in a heap until it lost its harsh smell and gained that deep, earthy scent. That's the sign it's ready. When it no longer stings the nose, but smells like the forest floor after rain. The lesson isn't to abandon manure, it's to respect its timing. Fresh manure is powerful, but like any strong medicine, it needs patience and moderation. Let it mature in a pile through winter, turn now and then, shielded from heavy rain. By spring, it will be dark, crumbly, and rich, a true feast for the soil, not a shock. So, before you reach for that shovel this November, remember this: good soil isn't built by rushing nature. It's built by listening to it. Let the earth breathe, rest, and renew at its own pace. You don't need to force fertility. You just need to make room for it to happen. Secret November soil trick: the blanket method. Clara Mae doesn't spread manure anymore. When the frost begins to whisper across her garden, she reaches instead for something far gentler, what she calls the blanket method. It's not complicated. No fancy formulas, no store-bought boosters. Just a few humble things nature already gives freely: fallen leaves, a bit of wood ash, a spoonful of molasses, and an old piece of burlap. Simple ingredients, but together, they do something magical. It starts with the leaves. Clara walks through her yard, rake in hand, collecting what others might see as a mess. Dry leaves, damp leaves, all are welcome. If she has time, she crushes or shreds them a little, helping them break down faster. These leaves are more than debris. They're carbon gold, the slow burning fuel that feeds the soil's tiny workers through the cold months. Next, she sprinkles a gentle layer of wood ash, just a handful per square foot. Too much can sour the soil, but the right amount adds valuable potassium and calcium, balancing acidity and helping next year's plants grow stronger roots. As she scatters it, she remembers her grandfather's words. Ash from a clean fire feeds the ground like kindness feeds a heart. Then comes the secret ingredient, molasses water. She mixes 1 tablespoon of molasses into a gallon of warm water and pours it lightly over the bed. The sweetness isn't for the plants, it's for the microbes. Those microscopic workers need energy just like we do, and molasses gives them a simple, natural sugar rush to stay alive and active even as the air cools. Finally, Clara covers it all with a layer of old burlap or flattened cardboard. It's not to look pretty, it's to protect. The cover traps warmth, keeps moisture in, and prevents the wind from stealing away her efforts. Beneath that simple blanket, an invisible feast begins. The leaves soften, the ash balances, the microbes stir, and by the time spring rolls around, the soil underneath is dark, crumbly, and alive, ready to burst with life. The best part? It costs nothing. No chemicals, no heavy lifting, no complicated mixing. Just nature working in harmony with time. For older gardeners like Clara, and perhaps for you too, it's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful gardening secrets aren't new at all. They're old traditions rediscovered, gentle enough for tired hands, but wise enough to transform the earth. When you peel back that burlap in March and smell the rich, earthy scent rising from the soil, you'll understand why she calls it the blanket method. It's more than a technique, it's an act of care, a quiet conversation with the ground itself. Science and wisdom explained, the secret beneath the blanket. Clara Mae always says, you don't need to force life into the soil, just invite it to stay. That's the quiet wisdom behind the blanket method. While manure can overwhelm and burn out the ecosystem beneath the frost, this gentler mix of leaves, ash, and molasses works with the soil's natural rhythm, not against it. It's the difference between shouting and whispering. And in the garden, whispers travel deeper. Here's what's really happening under that blanket. The crushed leaves act as the perfect slow-release food source. They're made mostly of carbon, the same element that fuels the bacteria, and fungi responsible for decomposition. When laid across the soil, they break down gradually, feeding earthworms and microorganisms without overwhelming them. Instead of dumping a feast they can't finish, you're giving them a warm, steady meal that lasts all winter long. The wood ash brings balance. It's rich in potassium and trace minerals, helping neutralize acidity left by rain and fallen plant matter. In scientific terms, it gently raises the soil's pH, creating a friendlier environment for microbes to thrive. But in Clara Mae's words, ash is like an old neighbor. It keeps everyone polite and steady. Then there's molasses, the quiet hero. A tablespoon mixed with water adds natural sugars that feed beneficial bacteria, the tiny workers, responsible for transforming organic matter into humus. The dark, fertile layer gardeners call black gold. It's like giving them a bit of warm tea in the cold months. Enough energy to keep going until the world wakes again in spring. As temperatures drop, those microbes don't die. They simply slow down, sheltering under the blanket of leaves and cardboard. Worms tunnel beneath, pulling bits of decaying matter into the earth, aerating and fertilizing as they move. When frost hits, the insulating cover prevents the topsoil from freezing solid, protecting this hidden community. By the time March arrives, all those quiet processes will have turned your simple layer of scraps into a soft, dark bed, rich with life, ready for planting. Science explains it simply. The carbon from leaves, the minerals from ash, and the sugars from molasses create a balanced ecosystem for soil regeneration. But Clara Mae's wisdom goes deeper. She sees it as partnership. You can't rush the soil, she says. You care for it, it cares for you. So when gardeners ask why her lettuce sprouts early and her tomatoes Grow thick and sweet, she smiles. Because the answer isn't found in a bag of fertilizer, it's beneath the frost, where life never really stopped, only slowed. You've just heard Clara Mae's secret, a quiet November ritual passed down from her grandfather, kept alive through time and tenderness. But here's the truth. Every gardener carries a bit of that same wisdom, whether it came from a parent who grew tomatoes in coffee cans, or a grandparent who swore by crushed eggshells and fireplace ash. These small traditions are the heartbeat of gardening. They connect us, not just to the earth, but to each other. So now, I want to hear your story. Do you have your own winter soil trick? Maybe something your family did long before. YouTube tutorials and gardening blogs. A little habit that kept the garden alive through the cold? Did your father dig trenches and fill them with straw? Did your grandmother tuck her herbs under a quilt of pine needles? Or maybe you discovered a trick yourself, one that saves your soil from freezing, keeps the worms happy, or helps your seedlings start strong in spring. Share it in the comments below. Because here, in this small corner of the internet, your voice matters. Each story becomes a seed of its own, a bit of wisdom that could help another gardener, miles away, keep their soil alive, too. When you write your comment, you're not just sharing a tip, you're adding to a living library of memories, hope, and renewal. Clara Mae's grandfather used to say, gardening is how families talk across generations. Maybe your story will be the one that keeps that conversation going. Tell us where your garden grows, maybe in the frost of Minnesota, the warmth of Georgia, or a little backyard somewhere in between. Tell us what you've learned about caring for the earth when it's resting. And if you've never tried a winter soil trick before, that's okay, too. You can start this year with leaves, ash, molasses, or your own twist on the method. Then come back in spring and tell us how it went. The comments are where the magic happens, not just questions and answers, but real people connecting through the shared rhythm of the seasons. Because the garden teaches us one truth better than any other: what we give grows. The garden never sleeps. As the sun fades earlier each day and the air grows sharp with November chill, most people see an ending: bare trees, quiet soil, a still garden. But Clara Mae never calls it an ending. She calls it a pause. Standing at the edge of her garden, breath rising in small clouds, she runs her hand across the cold ground and smiles. The soil never sleeps, she says softly. It just dreams until spring. Those words carry more than gardening wisdom. They hold a truth about life itself. Just like the soil, we all have seasons of rest, of slowing down, of quiet work happening beneath the surface. It doesn't mean growth has stopped. It means it's shifting, moving deeper, preparing for what's next. The same patience that renews the earth can renew us too, if we let it. So this November, don't rush your garden. Don't dump manure and call it feeding. Instead, tuck your soil in. Lay down a blanket of crushed leaves, whisper a handful of ash, drizzle a touch of sweetness, and trust the unseen work happening below. That gentle act of care is a promise between you and the earth. I'll protect you through the cold, and you'll return the favor in spring. By the time the first warm days return, when robins hop across thawing ground and the scent of life begins to rise again, you'll lift that burlap cover and see the miracle for yourself: soil rich, soft, and full of life. Black gold, born from patience. And maybe, in that moment, you'll understand what Clara Mae's grandfather meant when he said, good gardens, like good lives, are built in the quiet seasons. Because gardening has never really been about control. It's about cooperation, trust, and time. The soil teaches us that rest is not waste. Slowness is not failure, and even in the coldest months, something sacred is still growing. So as you put away your tools this year, take a moment to thank the ground beneath your feet. Wrap it with kindness. Speak to it gently. It may be dreaming now, but soon it will awaken, ready to give back every ounce of care you offered. Because the garden never truly sleeps. It remembers, it restores, and when you return in spring, it will welcome you back, not as a taskmaster, but as a partner in the endless rhythm of renewal, where wisdom never wilts. If Clara Mae's story or the blanket method gave you even one new idea for your garden, give this video a thumbs up. It may seem like a small gesture, but that single click helps this message of gentle, old-fashioned wisdom reach more gardeners who need it. People who might be staring at their soil this November, wondering what went wrong. and who just need a little reminder that nature still knows the way. And if you have a friend or neighbor who loves to grow, someone who still saves seeds in jars, who walks their garden at dawn just to listen to the birds, or who believes that soil holds memories, share this video with them. You might just pass along an idea that changes their next harvest. After all, that's how real wisdom spreads, not through algorithms, but through kindness, curiosity, and conversation. Finally, make sure to subscribe to the Evergreen Seniors, because here, wisdom never wilts. Every week, we dig into stories like Clara Mae's, part science, part soul, always rooted in experience. It's a place where gardening isn't just about plants, but about patience, purpose, and the quiet joy of watching life unfold one season at a time. When you subscribe, you're joining a community of people who understand that the soil beneath us still has lessons to teach about care, timing, and gratitude. We don't chase trends here. We honor traditions, rediscover forgotten tricks, and celebrate the simple beauty of growing things the way our parents and grandparents once did. So, before you click away, take a moment to do 3 small things. Like the video if it warmed your heart or taught you something new. Share it with one person who still believes in the magic of the garden. Subscribe so you never miss another story that blends old wisdom with new life. Because every view, every comment, and every shared story helps keep this community alive. A living garden of people learning, growing, and remembering together. And remember, the garden never truly sleeps, and neither does wisdom.